It is the shadow campaign. RNC files lawsuit against Montgomery County, PA for illegally issuing untested early ballots. Take a look at this guy. Commissioner Neil Makija, I officially cast the first ballot in Montgomery County and perhaps the first in Pennsylvania. Mail-in ballots are being sent out now, and you can apply for yours at montcovotes.com. Oh, boy. Hold on there a minute. They haven't tested the ballots yet. They're not ready to be released, and this guy's releasing them. The Republican National Committee has filed suit in the Common Pleas Court of Montgomery County, PA, alleging that the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners have commenced the 2024 election without completing the required testing per the election code. This testing is intended to promote election integrity, and without it, certain assurances cannot be met. The testing provides, quote, election officials an opportunity to identify and redress errors in the election definition, ballot format, and layout, including but not limited to appropriate locations for folds on absentee mail-in ballots, missing races, missing party identification, incorrectly worded ballot questions, and incorrect tabulation. The directive for pre-election testing of ballots also requires county boards to, quote, certify to the secretary when they have been completed, the testing, and to complete the certification at least 15 days prior to every election in their jurisdiction, and must submit the certification electronically to the Department of State. Pursuant to the election code in the state, all counties in Pennsylvania must conduct pre-election logic and accuracy testing prior to every election, primary, general, special, and municipal, that is conducted in their jurisdiction. This testing, per the directive, is a series of pre-election steps intended to ensure that ballot scanners, marking devices, and all components of the county's certified voting systems are properly configured in good working order prior to being used in the election. On September 13th, the defendant, Frank Dean, with the Montgomery County Board of Electors, emailed plaintiff Christian Nascimento, chair of the Montgomery County Republican Committee, saying, as long as you no doubt are aware, we have yet to receive a certified ballot from the Department of State. As such, we will not be starting L&A on Monday. Once we have a certified ballot, my intention is to begin L&A testing on the next business day. But in any event, I will notify you once we have the ability to proceed. The names of the candidates that would appear in the 2024 general election ballot were finalized by virtue of the decision of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court on September 16th, the lawsuit states, and were certified by the Secretary of the Commonwealth. The next day, Dean contacted Nascimento to say the testing would begin on the 19th, just 3 days later. The email is included in the suit as Exhibit 3. Dean then rescheduled the testing for September 23rd, this coming Monday, but in a dramatic and unprecedented maneuver, the lawsuit states ballot distribution began on the 17th before the testing had taken place. Upon information and belief, defendants are the only county in Pennsylvania to have commenced voting without completing proper testing. Montgomery County Commissioner Neil Makija went as far as to brag about the ballots being sent out, saying on X he officially cast the first ballot. We read that already, despite testing not being done. Excuse me. The suit states, remarkably, defendants were aware that L&A testing had not been completed on September 17, 2024, and publicly stated it would not commence until September 19, 2024, and would continue on weekdays until 3 p.m. The RNC demanded that Montgomery County election officials immediately cease the distribution of all mail and absentee ballots until the satisfactory completion of all mandated testing, and that any and all mail and absentee ballots distributed thus far must be immediately segregated upon return so that arrangements can be made to count these ballots by hand. The defendants failed to respond, though Makija put up another post encouraging others to vote in the election on September 19th, though the testing has not yet been undertaken. Comments on the post offer concern that Makija has engaged in illegal activity by mailing out ballots and casting ballots prior to legal testing. Why did you break the law, Neil? One you just said. You mailed out ballots that require statutorily required logic and accuracy testing. Both state law and the Secretary of State require testing. I got to tell you, already, whether it's an error or otherwise, this is going to create chaos. Are we going to be able to track these ballots? Are they going to intercept them? Are they going to get rid of them? Are they then going to say that people don't realize their vote didn't count and they got to re-vote again? Chaos. That is the game they're playing. On Friday, Makija complained the RNC was launching an attack on voting rights. Happy Election Day. This morning, I cast the first general election ballot. I serve as the chief election official in PA's third largest county, where we're working to ensure safe, secure, and accessible election for all. Get ready. He says, In response to Jack Posobiec, let's pull up his tweet here. Voting has begun in Pennsylvania, and so is the RNC's first line of attack on voting rights. Here in Montgomery County, they're threatening us under spurious legal grounds to breed distrust in voting systems, casting our ballots illegal without any legitimate basis. We test our machines. Voting here is safe, secure, and no level of intimidation will prevent access to the ballot of every Montco citizen. So, in other words, they lie. They know they're lying because, I'm sorry, these people want power. You know, I can't really blame them. You know, I understand. I just think it's evil, right? I've met a lot of people in my day, and so have you, and they don't seem to be all with it. And you're sitting here going like, my guy, I just told you. What don't you understand? And we have this gag where we say, perhaps at that point we simply ask, if you didn't have breakfast yesterday morning, how would you have felt? And that's the joke, to imply that the person is of low intelligence. And so here's how Democrats operate. And I'll tell you how I know this, because Michael Bloomberg admits it. They operate by saying, these people are so stupid. I'm done trying to convince them. I need only say things to them so they fall in line and do what I want them to do. And that's it. On the right, they say, inform everybody to the best of your abilities and let the decentralized system unfold. Now, there's pros and there's cons, but I believe the decentralized system with a strong leadership and proper advocacy is the right way to go. It's challenging, though, right? I was thinking about this last night. What would the world be like if I was supreme dictator? I was just in charge of everything. Iron fist, bang the gavel, whatever I say goes. Well, the problem is I might say something like, this is the problem with dictatorship, right? Let's say I came out and I said, guys, what we're looking right now with oil is the collapse of the petrodollar. And this means that we are going to see imports become more expensive. We're going to have to build up the American economy and secure our borders to make sure that our labor force is secure. We want unemployment low, but you don't want no unemployment because there need to be open positions available. If the economy is expanding properly, there will be jobs available. Unemployment means so you want job availability with some unemployment for flexibility in the market. And this means that we're never going to have a perfect system, but it does mean we're going to have to drill for more oil. I recommend Alaska, right? Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? A bunch of Greta Thunbergs show up and they scream, oil is going to kill everyone. And I can go to them and say, guys, listen, okay? Which would you prefer, the death of individuals who need food, shelter, heat, etc., or political platitudes? I mean, we go through the data and we're going to try to seek out energy forms. So we have a balance here. We do want to reduce maybe fossil fuels that overproduce carbon emissions. I can give you that one. However, we are not going to sacrifice our economy, the lives of the American people, their pursuit of happiness for a political, scientific maybe that you believe is true, that others believe is not true. So what I can tell you is this, the compromise, nuclear energy. We are going to start establishing nuclear power plants that are emission-free, that have a high return on energy invested, better than oil. It's a solution for all. And then they're going to go, nuclear energy is going to kill everybody. And you're like, oh my God. So what happens? They riot, they smash things. You can't just rule with an iron fist. It is very, very difficult to navigate these systems. That means it's a constant state of compromise and development, but you have to be brave and you have to be willing to do difficult things. You can't just rule with an iron fist, because what happens is eventually they just say you're a bad guy and they remove you. Plus, let's be real, no single individual knows how to run an entire system like this. You need decentralized voices. You need the wisdom of the crowd. But I don't blame these Democrats for thinking this way. I blame them for succumbing to the dark temptation of trying to seize control from everybody else. And I got to be honest, there are some that I think may be well-intentioned, albeit I would describe it as evil. And there are some that are just outright evil. You know, like Michael Bloomberg, I don't think I wouldn't call him overt evil. He genuinely thinks people are too stupid. He's like Dr. Doom, right? Like Dr. Doom's a bad guy. But let me tell you about Dr. Doom, okay? You Marvel fans, you know this one. For those that know anything about it, just don't worry. My point is that great writers have imagined these scenarios. So Dr. Doom is a character. He believes he should rule the world. Why? He says, I have looked into every future and humanity dies in every single one except the one where I'm in charge. He genuinely believes it. Not that it's true. And they've also written many comics where when Dr. Doom actually does succeed, it's a utopia. It's a paradise. I remember watching this when I was a kid, the Spider-Man cartoon. They go to a different dimension or something. They go to a planet where Dr. Doom, the bad guy, is in charge. And like, we have to stop him. Doom's evil. And everyone loves him. And they're like, no, he's fixed everything. Unfortunately, that's fantasy. That's never going to happen. So we can't sit back and let Democrats just decide they're going to lie, cheat, and steal for power because they're smarter than everybody. Because I got news for you. They think men can get pregnant. Okay. And, I'm just sorry. If that's the reality to live in, then you are just suffering from histrionic, narcissistic, and borderline personality disorder, where you think you should be in charge of everything, but you really have no idea how the world works. As the saying goes, my friend, what do they say? That the capable are I don't know the exact quote, but it's the ignorant are so confident while the capable are so full of doubt, or something like that. If you're aware of the system and you understand how the system works, then you're constantly questioning because you don't know everything. And you're like, man, I really do feel this is the right move, but I just don't know. So maybe I can't make this move. Stupid people don't know anything. And they're like, there's only one way forward. There's a great clip that's going viral from Bill Maher talking to a scientist who said, the Great Barrier Reef is at the highest levels you've ever seen. This climate change stuff is not correct. Bill Maher's like, well, how is it better now? How is the Great Barrier Reef coming back? What have we done? And he's like, nothing. I don't know. That's a fair point, huh? We have no idea. Like, just started happening. Now, what he says is we can certainly get rid of pollution. We can stop, dumping things in the water. We can stop overfishing. We can stop dumping plastics. Agreed. But this lie, I think it's a lie about climate change. I certainly think pollution is causing a lot of problems, but I think they lie for political power. They tell you the world's going to end. You got to vote for them. Why? Because you know what? Let me put it this way. I just watched that movie the other night, The Invention of Lying. Talk about a great movie. Okay. Ricky Gervais lives in a world where nobody can lie. Everything is literal and verbatim. There's some plot holes, however. And he figures out how to lie for the first time. There's no word for it. And he says, if you could do anything, what would you do? And these two guys are like, boobs. So he goes outside and he tells a woman, he's like, please, ma'am. And she's like, I'm not interested in talking to you. Nice try. And he says, if you don't, with me, the world will end. And because nobody knows what lies are, everything's literal. She goes, do we have time to go to a motel? And he goes, and he's like, I don't want to do this. This is terrible. The point is, these are the kind of people that fall for what the Democrat party line is and the corporate press. They basically say, the world is going to end unless you vote for me. And they go, oh, do I have time to make it to the voting booth? You do. Quick, go vote for me. And they go, okay. And then 10 years later, they're like, people are like, hey, how come the world didn't end? It's like, well, it's because you voted for me. And they go, oh, that makes sense. And that's the world we live in. Now, certainly, I'd agree more with like the Ricky Gervais point where he's like, you know what? This is not a good idea. I don't want to trick this woman into, you know what I mean? He's like, we shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't. We should be honest with people. Well, basically in the whole movie, he just lies endlessly and gains tons of power and fame and all that stuff. And it is a bit silly, but funny. I'll give you a plot hole, however. A plot hole is that there's one line where Rob Lowe says to Ricky Gervais, he says, Shelley has insulted you in this way. I can't repeat what was said in the movie. Tina Fey would get canceled today if she tried to say these things. He says, she called, I'll just say this. I'll cut the insult in half. He says, she called you overweight. And she goes, no, I didn't. I said he was fat. She says something else, but my point is this. If in the show you can't lie, but you can be wrong, then certainly you couldn't just lie your way through everything because people would just be like, you must be incorrect, sir. But they could have written through that one. Anyway, my point is this. What we are watching right now with these moves coming out of Pennsylvania is exactly what everyone already expected. They are going to start making moves that are in violation of the law. It is the shadow campaign. Why did this man release ballots that were not properly tested? Why? Why are we having... It's a month and a half to election day. We're supposed to have election day. Nope. So this guy releases ballots untested early, and it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Well, my friends, The state of the country is as such, and I don't know what else to tell you. We're going to be watching this stuff go down the whole time. I would not be surprised. Actually, you know what? I'll say this. I'm surprised right now we don't have 50,000 lawsuits already. Seriously, I'm surprised we aren't already seeing just 10,000 lawsuits in every state. We're a month and a half from the election. Maybe the dam will break now. Already a lawsuit is being filed. How about any other lawsuits pertaining to any other similarities? Are the Republicans prepared for the procedural election apparatus the Democrats will deploy to win this thing? You can argue to the high heavens, my friends. You can go to every single person in this country and say, here's the definitive proof. And the Democrats are going to say, none of that matters. All we have to do is ballot harvest. And then we win. If the Republicans think this is going to be a game of convincing people to vote, they've lost. Because Democrats have long figured out this is not about convincing people to vote. It's about convincing people to write their name on a piece of paper and send it in. I certainly hope the Republicans are prepared for this because this is PA. Pennsylvania is the state. Nate Silver says if Kamala Harris does not win here, she has a 4% chance of winning. Of course, as of right now, Nate Silver is predicting Harris to win. Trump was enjoying a mighty high, but as of recent, it's begun to decline. That being said, I don't buy it. I really don't. I'll tell you why. In 2016, the polls favored Hillary Clinton by about 3.2 points. In 2020, they favored Joe Biden by 3.6. They got worse. Take a look at all these polls. The Silver Bulletin. Let's lower and say 3-point swing. If it is true that we will see in this election a 3-point overestimation for the Democrat candidate. That means Trump is up 1.7 in Pennsylvania, 1.2 in Wisconsin. He's up 0.6 in Michigan, 3.1 in North Carolina, 3.9 in Georgia, 3.8 in Arizona, 6.9 in Florida, 1.8 in Nevada. He's still down in Minnesota by 3.2. He's up in Texas 8.2 and down in New Mexico by 5.2. If we shift this for the Republicans by 3 points based off of the biases we saw in 16 and 20, Trump is winning every swing state. He ain't getting Minnesota or New Mexico. But what's interesting is that Minnesota is now being included, it appears, because it's swung in the last month up nearly 2 points for the Republican. New Mexico seems to be completely irrelevant. So we'll see, my friends. We'll see. We got more to come on this special Saturday show. I've got many more segments, of course. We are going to be jumping into the, where is this one? Yes. Indeed. The IRS has endorsed Kamala Harris. Everything you need to know about why you're not going to be voting for her, right? Share this one with your friends. Smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with everybody you know. Tell them it's the best show. Timcast news, so good. Everyone agrees. And at least that's what I've been told. You can follow me on X at Timcast. Buy the song Coming Home by going to BUI, cominghome.com. Pre-order now. And the next segment will be coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thank you all so much for hanging out. For everybody watching live, we'll go to your Super Chats.